benches, like we were saying before, are usually that way. When you're going down this hog back, you've got another one in the center over there, which creates an edge. So we are home for a few short days here in Michigan, and then back on the road for some more client properties. It's been a great spring. Weather is great. We got to leave here last week. My son was able to go with me and kind of spend some spring break on the road. And after clients, we started here in Michigan. We're in Missouri with a few clients, and then went from there to Kentucky, and with some clients, and also looking for some ground for ourselves. And so we were on the road. We've been on the road a lot here lately, and so the videos have not been something that we could stop and shoot. We've shot some videos along the way, just haven't had time to do a lot of editing and bring it to you guys. So one of the things that I wanted to stop today, while I had a chance here, be on the road here in about another half hour, but had a break here this morning, wanted to always, there's always something that pops up with clients. Seems like it's a similar topic. You know, I'll be on 2-3 clients in a row, 4 clients in a row in a week, and that same topic always comes up. And those are the topics that I feel that you know, I need to bring to you guys and chat with you about, and you know, shed some light on, if you will. And the reason for that is if it's a topic of discussion with 4 clients over a week, to me, there's probably a lot of other clients out there as well, or other folks out there in the whitetail range that are questioning it or struggling with it, or whatever that topic might be. So today's topic, what we're going to touch on, is spring food plots. You know, this time of the year, we start focusing on, obviously, habitat improvements, whether you've contacted myself or a consultant, or whether it's a program that you know, that you've set in place and you've worked on for over, you know, number of years, and you're trying to get that you know, that foothold, and you know, really bring all that those improvements together. This time of the year, we start focusing on food plots. And you know, food plots are a great tool. Obviously, we talk and teach and preach that, but there's a number out there that seems pretty consistent with me over the last couple of years. I looked back into that last night. I was actually, when this came up, I was actually this week, you know, and I had some time last night to really kind of look at some numbers, some rough numbers, if you will. And you know, I came up with about 10%, you know, over the last 4 years here. So the numbers have been about 10% of properties, only 10% of properties do I recommend, you know, that I encourage plant spring food plots. And I know we've talked about this before, as far as, you know, do I need to plant a spring food plot? But today we're going to talk about what to plant. So, you know, all over the country, there's a, you know, all over the whitetail range, there's a kind of an influx or a decline, or a steady hold in a herd number, whether that's the climate that's, you know, influences that, whether that's the region, the neighbor, the community, the outfitters in the area, whatever that case is. It seems like there's always one conversation that comes up throughout the clients, like I said, and that conversation is, what do I need to plant in the spring? Well, on the majority of my properties, with the majority of my clients, I find that my answer to that has been this for years, is that the majority of your spring food plots are planted in the fall. And that always kind of gets kind of a, you know, a raised eyebrow, like, what do you mean by that? So when we're practicing the, you know, the food plot strategy that we focus on in the fall, you know, I'm a big believer, and I'm not the guy that, you know, started this. I'm not the guy that you know, coined this, if you will, as far as planning. I'm not really sure who exactly started. I know there's a bunch of people now that do that, but the big idea of planting and separating your food plots in the fall into half greens and half grains, if you will, is a very powerful tool. And the reason is, it's a very powerful tool in the fall that gets you and meets those requirements. And it also helps to determine and set that precedence in the spring. And by doing that, the answer to that is rye. Now, there's some other fall plantings that may be along the lines of like a clover that may be as powerful. But like I've talked in the past about clover, guys, clover is meant to be planted and maintained for years to come. It's not meant to, in my my opinion, I guess, take that for what it's worth. I believe that the clover is something that a lot of folks plant in the fall and then they disc it under in the spring, and to me it's very expensive. It's harder to maintain, and so when you're planting these fall food plots and you're splitting half of it into grains and greens, I always recommend that. And like I said, the reason that I recommend that is it's great for the fall because all of your food plots on your property are split, and so half of it's brassicas and half of it's grains. And to me, rye is very, very hard to beat because we plant a lot of rye, and you can fix failed food plots in the fall. But to where this video ties into it is the spring. So the spring of the year, to me, is where a lot of especially in our climate, where here in mid-Michigan, let's say, and wherever, even where we were at last week, and even southern parts of that southeastern part, I guess you could say, of Missouri, and then the south central area in Kentucky. Even those areas are pretty strong in the need to help the deer rebound from the fall. And not only the does, but a lot of the focus is on helping those bucks rebound, because if you don't help them rebound from that strong rut that they go through here in mid-Michigan, let's say, it's compound with compound with the harsh winters. So you go through a time period where they lose up to 30% of their body weight, and then we follow that up with a harsh winter. And if they do make it, which a lot of them don't, from our area here north, but if they do make it, then anything that you can help, get that initial jolt to get them back on their feet during spring, and you've all seen it. We've all been driving down the road where, if you're in an area where it snows, and all of a sudden there's that green patch in the field and there's 30 deer around it, and that's the power of having grains planted before, so it's ready for spring. So when that that's 37 degree soil temperature finally reaches your area, that rye from last year that you were layering or that you planted late in the season and maintained, that rye starts to regenerate. My food plot right here at the house farm is that way. I've been on the road quite a bit over the last couple months, and every time I get home here, I pull in the driveway, and that plot just keeps getting greener. Yesterday we got a rain, and it's already just exploding. There's deer tracks all over it. So to me, that's kind of the outlook and the answer that I give a lot of folks is I really, really highly recommend, if it's not rye, make sure maybe that is that clover that takes over. The clover just doesn't rebound as quick, I find, in the spring, and it's just not there when we need that first initial start to help those, because everything else is still dead in the woods, and everything's else brown is dead thatch everywhere in the woods still, and especially if it was covered in snow all fall. And as soon as you get those warmer temperatures and we get that heat to the ground, those rye plots, boy, they're powerful. They take right off. So I've had a couple of clients reach out to me lately that have showed, boy, that rye is so powerful. Deer all over the plots, and to me, that's the best way inside of those areas that encompass those areas that I speak of. That 10% of my clients a year that I do recommend planting spring food plots, because their deer density numbers are low, but the rest of us around the country that are fortunate enough to have good, okay, or great deer numbers, those spring food plots are already planted in the fall. Now, if it's somewhere where your soil is needing more help, what I've done is because 37 degrees, that rye will start growing, and it doesn't need a lot to really take off. So what I've done is I've started right off in that early April, weather dependent. I mean, we've hunted turkey season here in April in Michigan where it's snowing, so you got to kind of take that into consideration. But I've went down and dressed my plots with a bunch of rye to start off with, and before I end up disking that under, when I was disking, before I put that back under in the end of May, or that in June there, boy, it was green, and everything was using it. So rye, guys, is a very, very powerful tool. I think it's overlooked in the fall, and because of that, it's very overlooked at the power that it can have to help rebound your herd in the spring to get them back on their feet. Now, like I said, that to me goes that goes for most of the deer range. There's not too many parts of the country that rye doesn't shine. So especially here in the Midwest, the north or the Northeast, rye is your ticket. So that's when when folks ask me, and it comes up a lot. It came up 4 times this week on client properties that hey, what do we need to plant for spring food plots, or what should we be planting? And then we go down the road of probably shouldn't be planting spring food plots at all, because all 4 of these properties this week all had great deer numbers, and so we shouldn't be planting them at all. But your plots are already established from the fall, and your deer are taking advantage of that, all them efforts that you created for them last year, and now we're off and running into spring. That to me is the quickest way to help the spring deer herd rebound and get back on their feet, is because you cannot possibly get anything planted early enough in the season, February, March, to get that initial hold to start growing, to really make an impact for your herd or with your herd. But if it's planted in the fall and it lays there dormant throughout the entire winter, even in the regions that don't get snow, and then when that soil hits 37 degrees, boy, you are in business right now, and you're feeding a bunch of deer. That to me is pretty powerful. And so I just wanted to bring that to you guys. We've got a line of videos here that'll be coming. I appreciate everybody's patience. I really on the road this week, I had about 3 or 4 messages like, hey, what happened to you? Your videos aren't coming. And to me, guys, I don't have right now. My son is I'm pretty fortunate enough when he's on the road with me to do some video and stuff. But I'm a one-man show with that. I film and edit and do all that myself. And when I've got, this month, I think I've got 13 clients, and so spread out all over the country. And in the month of May is the same way. I think I've got 11 or 12 right now. So scattered from Vermont to Alabama, back out in Missouri, and this week we're in the Virginias. So stay tuned with us, guys. There's always those questions that pop up. This is one of them that I see. Like I said, I see a lot of along the way. Don't overlook that power of that rye, because like I said, you can't physically get something in the ground earlier in the spring, so that will grow because of weather conditions. And if it's planted in the fall and it lays there dormant, you're off and running first thing in the spring.